Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Hall, but you may call me Dr. Kennard. This is the Disappointed Cat Morning Show. What are the news stories we're covering today? I'm glad you asked. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Hall, an incompetent host who turns on the volume on his iPad. No, that's not the first. That's not the first story. Stoned fish. High fish. High fish. We'll call it high fish. That's one fish. This isn't two fish. This is just an idiot. We're covering this guy. And if you're saying to yourself, are we going to cover more idiots than that guy? Well, we're going to be talking about him too. So those are just some of the stories we're covering today, everyone. And we're also going to be talking about Rudy Giuliani losing his ability to practice law in Washington, D.C. And of course, the Catholic Church. We're going to talk about the Catholic Church in Canada. It turns out that they were going to pay reparations for all intents and purposes for all the crimes they did against the Native peoples of Canada. And guess what? They never paid, or they paid a portion of what they were supposed to. Wow. So if you're watching on Facebook, I will not be able to interact with you like I will in the YouTube chat. You'll see me talking to people in the chat, making comments, kind of riffing on what they're saying. People in the chat are really super smart, and they have insight. Insight? I'll say that. Insight. So if you want to come on over and communicate with me directly and with people on YouTube in the chat, then please head on over to YouTube. But if you can't or you won't, that's fine. We're going to have a fun show today. I'd like to start things off with a funny little video clip.
Became a Christian as an adult? Interesting. I love it. Some guy in the dark's just like, high level of difficulty. Finding faith as a grown-up. How long have you been a Christian? A year? Oh, you're like brand new. It's your anniversary. You don't remember? You don't remember like the day? Usually adult Christians remember the day because they like had a meltdown. No? What? You like the music? Nobody has ever become a Christian because of the music, just so you know. That has never, ever happened. Nobody's ever been like, why did you decide to dedicate your life to Jesus Christ? And they were like, have you heard Stephen Curtis Chapman? Because that guy rocks.
So Taylor is going to be coming over to the Wilbur Theater here in Massachusetts, in Boston, Massachusetts. And I'm going to try to convince the girlfriend to go get some tickets. We're going to go get some tickets maybe to see her perform live. I think she's hilarious, does great comedy. She's been on, I've played her videos before on the channel. And so seeing her live would be pretty cool. I'm going to say hello to everyone in the chat. Hope you're doing well this morning. Wow, a lot of people today. That's good. A powerful thumbnail image this morning. I wanted to communicate power. That's why I wanted to communicate power and silliness at the same time. Wild Eden. Dr. Mordecai, glad to see that you're here, sir. John Hudson, an interesting comment. Maybe some insight there too. Church is burning while the Pope checks out another choir boy. But the story that I am going to share today is it's don't have the Catholic Church ever do crisis control for you. Just that's going to be one of the things we're going to take away later on. You're sleep deprived, John Funk. I'm sorry to hear that. Hey, Scott Duke, glad to see that you're here. Phil Lister, you're out in your boat. Phil Lister, typically at sea. Now, what was it? Were the Danes? The Danes were defeated, right, by England? I was actually rooting for the Danes. I don't know why. It's somewhat arbitrary. But I believe, as I recall, I saw the last few minutes of the game. And it was England 2-1. All right, Tobin from Texas. Hope you're doing well. Derek Cruz, good morning from Raleigh, North Carolina. Wild Eden. The Catholic Church spends huge amounts on lawyers. We're going to find out that the Catholic Church spends a large amount on renovating churches, too. Instead of paying the native people of Canada for the crimes that they've committed against them, the church decided just to renovate churches. Blazing Wizard Pope, glad that you're awake this morning, sir. Rage, I hope you're doing okay this morning, Rage. And Imaginary God and the girlfriend. So the girlfriend, if you didn't know that Taylor Tomlinson is going to be at the Wilbur in December. She's funny. And Jessi Bear, thank you for keeping me on track. A lot of the times I just start talking about the stories, or I say just start talking to people in the chat. And at times I start talking to my microphone too. But I usually forget to ask people to hit the like button, and please do. All right. Cryptameria, good morning. I think I got everyone. You heard that. Oh, good. Good. So maybe we'll see Taylor Tomlinson when she comes over to the Wilbur. Paul Camish. Hope you're doing well this morning, Paul Camish. All right. So we're going to do some memes. And then we're going to jump into the first story, which is the Catholic crisis in Canada. But first, memes. A couple more laughs, everyone. This is near and dear to my heart. Trump Tower 2021. It's a guard tower in a prison. I can hope he goes to jail. It probably won't happen, but I can hope, everyone. The new praying emoji looks like a very exasperated gay man trying to explain something to someone who isn't understanding them. I didn't know that there was a praying emoji out there. And I think I'm pronouncing it right. I'm not sure. But it does look like someone trying to explain something to someone who isn't understanding them. Or willfully ignorant, maybe. Willfully ignorant. You know, a lot of people don't understand what willfully ignorant is until they spend time on the internet for like 5 minutes. Maybe on Facebook, maybe on Twitter. And then you say to yourself, I didn't know what willfully ignorant was before, but now I do. And right from God, himself, themselves, we'll go with himself. All cards on the table, I spent more time watching dogs than any of you. Well, I can't blame him. Dogs are pretty cool, especially if he's watching corgis, to tell you the truth. If God is watching corgis more than people, I would agree with that. All right. So, Pyromaniacs, Lee Spanner. Good morning, sir. Good morning. All right. First story, everyone. Catholic Church. It's worse. It's actually worse than we have covered the story about how the Catholic Church ran a vast majority of the residential schools in Canada, and how those schools they educated Native tribe children, and there's been hundreds of dead bodies discovered on the grounds of these residential schools. I believe it's the Archbishop of Winnipeg complained, we covered the story a few days ago, complained why everyone was picking on him, how his life was so miserable, because people want some kind of justice, and because he's a representative of the very same church who committed these atrocities, that they are going to him. So we have the churches, we have the Catholic Church, basically being responsible for dead kids. We have the Archbishop of Winnipeg complaining about why people are picking on him. I just want to remind people that the Catholic Church has never apologized for its crimes against the Native peoples of Canada. And now you say to yourself, how can it be worse? How can the Catholic Church screw up the response to this crisis even more? I'm glad you asked. Catholic Church raised nearly $300 million for buildings since promising residential school survivors $25 million in 2005. The CBC compiled Catholic projects announced since promising best efforts to survivors, paying them under $4 million. So to unpack this just a little bit before getting into the meat and potatoes of the story, the Catholic Church promised residential school survivors $25 million, and they paid them only $4 million while raising $300 million for their own buildings. Okay, let's just do this. Catholic officials said in 2015 they could only fundraise a total of $3.9 million for residential school survivors. But efforts for Catholic cathedrals and other buildings across Canada reached nearly $300 million since November 2005, according to data gathered by CBC News. The actual number may be higher. The Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops declined a CBC News request this week to ask its members bishops for the information. The figure of $292 million resulted from searches of individuals' diocese websites and other public sources. These include a $128 million renovation in St. Michael's Cathedral Basilica in Toronto, the 2016 gala opening, complete with a brass band, was held 1 year after Canadian church groups went to court to say there is no more fundraising money for survivors. Critics say these figures throw into question the church's legal claim it gave best efforts to help survivors. So you promise to give $25 million, you spend $3.9 million for residential school survivors, but yet you're blowing up. There's a pun there. I'm sorry, everyone. You're renovating your churches and your cathedrals all around Canada with $292 million. They didn't keep their promise. You just can't say, oh, we tried. That's too bad, Star Blanket Cree Nation Chief Michael Starr said. There is a lot of hate, a lot of anger out there. The church has to work with us. It has to be tangible. Keep your promise. So when it comes to making the Catholic Church pay, when has that happened when they haven't been compelled to? I don't know, everyone. I'm not a scholar of the Catholic Church and their crimes. I know that in Boston, right? Boston, if it wasn't due to a class action suit, they wouldn't have paid survivors anything significantly. And let's just go on. Following the discovery of more than 1,000 unmarked graves in Kamloops, BC, the Cowes First Nation in Saskatchewan and elsewhere in Canada, Starr, survivors, and others wanted the church to revive its efforts. Starr applauded Saskatchewan bishops for agreeing recently to do exactly that, but he said survivors haven't seen anything concrete yet. Starr also called on every bishop in Canada to join the effort. It doesn't seem to be unreasonable. Just sign on. Just say that you're going to raise money to pay for the sins that you committed against the Native people of Canada. Starr, Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations Chief Bobby Cameron, and others say they've had 15 years to do what's right since the 2005 Indian residential school settlement. So they aren't sure why officials are only starting to think about it again now. Why are they thinking about it right now? Could it be that their churches are going up in flames? I think it's 5 churches so far, everyone. I might be wrong. It might be 4. I want to say 5. Maybe the Catholic Church is reconsidering paying off the people they need to pay off because their churches are burning. Maybe. Perhaps. They said all current Catholic fundraising for buildings must be paused while money is raised for survivors. That includes the Regina Diocese $17 million campaign to renovate its Holy Rosary Cathedral. Saskatoon and Regina Diocese officials declined to give a time frame or a target dollar amount for survivor fundraising efforts in the province, but a Regina Diocese official said more details will be available soon, including the fate of other current fundraising campaigns. In the landmark 2005 Indian Residential School Settlement Agreement, one of the Catholic Church's promises was to give its best efforts at fundraising $25 million for survivors. After a decade, more than $21 million remains unpaid. The devil is in the details. You cannot trust the Catholic Church or its best efforts. I don't know, chat. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Let's see what you're going here. Alan, good to see you here. Let's see. I'm gonna just crank out. See what's going on here on the church should pay. They should pay. They should be forced to pay by hook or by crook. By any means necessary. I didn't say by any means necessary. But I mean, I was having this conversation. I didn't have a conversation. I was on Facebook, and one of my atheist friends went on his, and a legitimate point, that we can't go around burning down churches, and that it's wrong to burn down churches. It's like, yeah, I agree with that. However, and this is the comment that I wrote. It was an asterisk, and it's like, shrug my shoulders, and would I give Native peoples a box of matches and accelerant? Sure, I would. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. And then I'd walk away, and whatever they chose to do with the matchboxes and accelerant, that's up to them. So that's my official fatwa. All right. Checking out the chat here. Well, Lee Spanner, for those of us who are old enough, we remember that the Catholic Church still blamed Jews for killing Christ up until Vatican II. Okay, for those of us who are old enough, or for those of us who are atheists, humanists, secularists, or historians, historically minded people understand that. It is so sick, Cryptameria. It is. Just checking out the chat here. Yeah. The Boston area has churches turned into condominiums. Turn their swords into plowshares. Instead, I would say Pope Francis, turn those churches into condominiums. Sell off the property, pay off your debt for the sins that you've committed. Cryptameria says, I want them out of Canada. Sell the churches, tax the bleep out of them, and make the Vatican admit they were murderers. Indeed. Alan, I'm going to get back to what Alan said. Some of this will ultimately be paid by insurance. I imagine that means the church burnings. By being part of the insurance pool, other insurers are effectively subsidizing the premiums paid for the Catholic Church. Good point. That is the nature of insurance. So that means a bunch of people who are paying into the insurance pool actually subsidize the Catholic Church's sins. Interesting point. All right, I think and good point, Alan. Buildings can be rebuilt. The lives they destroyed are forever. Indeed. All right, heavy stuff to start the show off. You want to all right, gonna breathe. You want to feel good. Everyone, I want to feel good. The microphone. Yeah, is it Wednesday? I guess I can start talking to the microphone now. Microphone. Do you want to feel good? The microphone says it wants to feel good. So, Rudy Giuliani, no longer able to practice law within Washington, D.C. That doesn't put a smile on your face. I don't know what will. All right, let me just share this video with you all. So, court suspends Rudy Giuliani's law license in Washington, D.C. That's the name of the video we're going to be checking out, everyone. Oh, look at that face. America's mayor. Oh, how far he has fallen.
How can they say I'm alive? Rudy Giuliani, a former attorney for ex-U.S. President Donald Trump, has been suspended from practicing law in Washington, D.C. The D.C. Court of Appeals issued the order, citing the suspension of Giuliani's New York license 2 weeks ago. A court there found he had lied when arguing that the 2020 election was stolen from Trump. The New York Appellate Division said Giuliani's false claims of widespread voter fraud threatened the public interest and could erode public confidence in elections, and cited the Capitol riot by Trump supporters earlier this year. One of those false statements alleged that hundreds of thousands of absentee ballots had been improperly counted. Neither Trump nor Giuliani had produced any evidence to support those claims, and several courts, election officials, and members of Trump's own administration have debunked them. Giuliani had slammed the New York court order, calling it a, quote, double-standard justice system. After the ruling on June 24th, Giuliani said he would go to court to fight the New York suspension.
So I love the initial pictures, the first few pictures of Rudy Giuliani, the film clips of Rudy Giuliani from that clip. They just made him look like an idiot. Not that that's hard to do, everyone. The most ridiculous pictures of him. Sure, it wasn't from Borat 2 where he's like, working his zipper. But still, there were silly pictures of him. So yeah, too bad Rudy Giuliani, one single tear. Not able to practice law right now in Washington, D.C. Shame, eternal shame, nothing but shame. Was that from Henry V, Andy? Yeah, I know things. I do some things. I know things with my brain. That was from Henry V. All right, what's the next story you want to do? Are we going to talk about high fish, stoned fish, methamphetamine fish with methamphetamines in their system? Yes, that is exactly the story that we're doing right now. Talk about a pivot, talking about Catholic Church in Canada and their horrible, horrible business up there, and then switching to Rudy Giuliani not being able to practice law in Washington, D.C., and now high fish. Fish, I don't know, is it proper to say coked up on methamphetamine? I guess it's not, because if you're coked, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say that. All right, let's do the story. Methamphetamine in waterways may be turning trout into addicts. Brown trout can become addicted to the illegal drug methamphetamine when it accumulates in waterways, according to the new research. Research is led by Pavel Horky, a behavioral ecologist from the Czech University of Life Sciences in Prague, set out to investigate whether illicit drugs alter fish behavior at levels found in bodies of water. According to the study published Tuesday, the team put 40 brown trout in a tank of water containing a level of methamphetamine that has been found in freshwater rivers for a period of 8 weeks before transferring them to a clean tank. Then, every other day, the researchers checked whether the trout were suffering from methamphetamine withdrawal by giving them a choice between water containing the drug or water without it. A further 40 trout were used as a control group. See, that's what you're saying, people. I know what you're saying in the chat because you're so smart. You're asking, but was there a trout control group? Yes, there was a trout control group. Trout that had spent 8 weeks in water containing methamphetamine selected water containing the drug in the 4 days after moving to fresh water. This indicates they were suffering withdrawal because they sought the drug when it became available, according to the researchers. Okay, maybe. But there's more. The team found that the addicted fish were less active than those that had never been exposed to the methamphetamine and found traces of the drug in their brains up to 10 days after exposure. The team concluded that even low levels of illicit drugs in bodies of water can affect the animals that live in them. Drugs excreted from users pass through the sewage systems and then discharge from wastewater treatment plants, which are not designed to treat this type of contamination into waterways, according to the study. Well, this is interesting, right? When water contamination systems were being made, I don't think they were probably thinking about a population using Prozac, methamphetamines, all different kinds of drugs. Fish are sensitive to adverse effects of many neurologically active drugs, from alcohol to cocaine, and can develop drug addiction related to the dopamine reward pathway in a similar way to humans, Horky told CNN via email. The researcher raised concerns that drug addiction could make fish spend more time around well, this is interesting. And I've read this before, mind you, of course, but I thought this was interesting. The researcher raised concerns that drug addiction could make fish spend more time around water treatment discharges, which are unhealthy for them in order to get another hit. So basically, the fish would be hanging around where the water comes out from the water treatment plant, where they get that sweet, sweet methamphetamine, or whatever cocktail it is, because the water just doesn't have methamphetamine in it. It has all the other crazy drugs that we're pumping into the system. Wow. All right. Oh, good. StreamYard is screwing up the comments. Oh, here we are. Back to normal again. B. Glad to see you're here. Wild Eden, I would agree with you on that. Just go back to drinking beer instead of water. I've been off fish. I don't talk about being a vegetarian a whole lot. I'm about to get my 1-year anniversary of being a vegetarian in August. But even before becoming a vegetarian, I wasn't eating a whole lot of fish. Only if I was at a pub and having some drink was I eating a fish fry. And one of the reasons is just because, there's just so many pollutants in the water that get into the fish. You'll never give up your covfefe. Very nice. Very nice, Blazing Wizard. I see what you did there. Sir. So they were they were basically placing them in a tub of water for I think 8 weeks. But the thing is, the water was basically had the same amount of methamphetamine in it that many waterways have. Yes, Blazing Wizard Pope, your pee contains weed. That's how people get busted for these drug tests, right? I've had to take drug tests before for work. Not pleasant. I eat a ton of fish, so go figure. Well, you have enough drugs in your system, John Hudson, to whatever you're getting from the fish, you're fine. All right, halftime tummy rub show, everyone. I would be remiss. I was talking with Simply Secular Dave, and he did not show that I showed off Dee Parks giving this frog to Studio A, where I am broadcasting from. And this is a gift from her. It is a frog drinking some Corona. And so, once again, Simply Secular Dave, just want to show you, I am showing off the gift here. All right, so this is a completely, let's see, notes. This is a halftime tummy rub show. I'm going to show you a funny video. Before that, please hit the like button. And once again, there's no ads here on the show. And that means that the channel is 100% viewer supported. So if you can afford to give a couple of shekels, a couple of dollars, please do so and become a YouTube member, or do so and become a patron of mine, because I also write the blog Laughing in Disbelief on the non-religious channel in Pathos. You've probably read some of my material without even knowing about it. In fact, that's why I call myself Dr. Kennard, because that's one of the constant characters I use in my satirical pieces. All right. I don't know about the frog. I cannot speak for the frog. The frog is busy drinking. Once the frog is done with this Corona, I will ask the frog. Alan says, this is interesting. Meth fish, a whole new excuse for doping athletes. Everyone talks about the athlete who tested positive. Yes, they do. They overlooked the same week another runner in the U.S. team tested positive for steroids, and she blamed eating a pork burrito. Next, meth, fish, and chips. Indeed. All right, let's do a funny video, right? I thought this was pretty clever, everyone. Especially if you're a fan of this scene in The Empire Strikes Back, which is the best movie out of the Star Wars series. Well, out of the 9 movies, Empire Strikes Back. Is that radical to say? I don't think so. I think most people agree with that. But here's that scene, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, so I guess Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. Dude, yeah, he told me you killed him, dog. No, I'm your father, man. No, that's not true. That is impossible. Come on, you just have to search your feelings. You know it to be true. No!
All right, so I'm going to just tease right now that the last video I'm going to show, which I didn't upload properly because I posted. I'm just looking at my technical. I don't have a producer for the show. I'm the producer. I'm the writer. I'm everything. And so occasionally there are technical issues. Occasionally, not that often, everyone. So I think I'm gonna have to show off Taylor Tomlinson at the end of the show too, because I uploaded her video twice. That's too bad. All right, checking out the chat one more time. A couple of yen. A couple of dinero. That's right. That's right, B. All right, what have we gone through? High, fish that are high. The Catholic crisis up in Canada that the Catholic Church is making even worse. Rudy Giuliani no longer able to practice law in Washington, D.C. He got his license suspended. QAnon Shaman. Oh, QAnon Shaman. Why did I put you on as this? Well, this guy, Jacob Chansley, lives with his mom at his house. He would walk around. And for those of you who've been following this channel for a while, we've been covering Mr. Chansley he would walk around his neighborhood, everyone, dressed like this. He would just be hanging out, maybe getting a pint of milk at the local corner store, and he would just be walking around his neighborhood looking like this, right? And of course, he was one of the Capitol rioters on January 6th. Let's take a look at what he's been up to. A judge denied the Q Shaman's bid to get out of jail for a third time. This guy keeps trying to get out of jail. But thankfully, the judge is saying no. Oh, links to the stories are in the description, everyone. I should mention that too. A federal judge on Tuesday denied the latest attempt to spring the self-styled Q Shaman from a Colorado jail ahead of his trial. Jacob Chansley, who gained notoriety by wearing a headdress with fur and horns during the January 6th Capitol siege, faces 6 charges stemming from the insurrection. His attorney, who's a scumbag, his attorney is just a scumbag. And I know you're saying, well, anyone who represents this guy has to be a scumbag. That's not necessarily true. I will say that, and we'll get to the point why he's a scumbag. His attorney argued on June 30th that Chansley should be released due to new evidence showing that the spear he brought to the Capitol was actually just a flagpole with a finial zip tied to the top and that posed no danger to anyone. The attorney, Al Watkins, also argued that Chansley should be released to his mother's home in Arizona or to a secure location in St. Louis where Watkins could keep track of him. District Judge Royce Lamberth wasn't persuaded by either argument, ruling that Chansley's attorney hadn't offered any new information that changed his perception of Chansley's dangerousness or risk of fleeing, and provided no details on the secure location in St. Louis. Lamberth added that he had previously rejected Chansley's mother as a custodian, given that she repeatedly told 60 Minutes in an interview that Chansley did nothing wrong. So what's family systems theory? I worked with in the human service field for quite a while and still do. I've worked with kids in the system and their families. And family systems theory is that the apple basically doesn't fall far from the tree in many ways. And so with Jacob Chansley, you say to yourself, wow, I wonder how this guy got the way he did. Well, it turns out his mom is kind of unstable herself. Chansley is detained at a federal facility in Colorado where he will soon be evaluated for his mental fitness to stand trial, court documents said. Watkins also repeatedly raised questions about his client's mental health. During the June 30th hearing, he called Chansley a man who needs some attention, that he is not able to get it, and even told, this is why this guy Watkins, the lawyer, is a scumbag, and even told Talking Points memo in an interview that the Capitol riot defendants were effing short bus people. Is he making fun of people with disabilities? I don't know. I think that's a slur somehow. I think that could be a slur. As someone who has taken the small bus when they were in kindergarten for, a speech defect for a disability, that might be a slur. I don't know. So yes, Jacob Chansley still in jail. His lawyer, Watkins, still a scumbag. Updates you need to know. Let's see. Just checking them out. Checking out the chat. Blazing says you should have a full movie length edit credit editing. Okay, so Blazing says you should have a full movie length end credit. Andy producer, Andy executive producer, Andy assistant producer, Andy lighting, and I do actually pay attention to the lighting too. everyone. Andy Sound, yeah, exactly. Writer, best boy, gaffer, right? All right. Alan says, scum attorney, if you brandish the fake gun, he would be charged. This is true. If you brandish a fake gun in the course of committing a crime, guess what? They treat you as if it's a real gun. So what if it was a fake spear? Also, a baseball and athletic equipment has been deemed a weapon in many cases. This is true. Yeah, this is, yeah, totally agree, Alan. Totally agree. And B says, not shocked. Yes, Jessi Bear, that gets my angers up. It gets my angers up. And I do get tired after doing this show. I have to tell you because it's so, anger takes a lot of energy. Anger takes a lot of energy. Okay. What are we going to do next? We're doing good for time. Okay, so I was watching the football game, soccer to us here in the States, over in the England versus Denmark game yesterday. It's like, wow, there seems to be a lot of people over in Wembley Stadium, because I saw the previous game. I forget who it was against. I think it was Spain versus Italy. And they seemed to be less people there for that game. And my girlfriend's like, yeah, because it's England, they're just allowing more people, in the stadium. It's like, aren't they having like some major issues with the Delta variant right now? She's like, yeah, they are. So, but they're still allowing people into the stands, and in fact, just packing, good amount of people in there. And I'm sure they're not checking for people make sure that they're all vaccinated. So yeah. And she's going, well, now that they're going to be in the finals, they'll probably be packing even more people. And so there seems to be a theme about coronavirus that people are just stupid. If you've been following the Summer Olympics story in Japan, there seems to be this kind of twister, this kind of attempt to try to make the Summer Olympics worth it, or to try to get people, there's like trying to make it work. And no one has ever accused the international, what is it, the IACA or the International Olympic Organization to be either competent and not corrupt, right? I think those are pretty two well-known facts about the people who run the Olympics. Not too competent and corrupt. So let's look at how Japan is trying to deal with having the Summer Olympics over there with the Delta variant going on and with people flying in from around the world. Let's take a look at this video. And the name of the video is Organizers to Ban Olympic Spectators. And this is from Reuters. And let's enlarge that.
Olympic organizers are poised to ban all spectators from the Games. That's according to Japan's Asahi newspaper on Thursday. Organizers were set to formally reach the decision on spectators during five-way talks between key parties to be held later in the evening. The International Olympic Committee's head, Thomas Bach, arrived in Tokyo earlier in the day and was set to chair that meeting. It's the latest blow to the troubled Summer Games, already delayed by a year because of the pandemic and plagued by a series of setbacks, including massive budget blowouts. Japan is also preparing to declare a state of emergency for Tokyo that will coincide with its hosting of the event. Medical experts have said for weeks that having no spectators at the Games would be the least risky option. There's been widespread public concern that the influx of thousands of athletes and officials will fuel a fresh wave of infections. Organisers have already banned overseas spectators and have for now set a cap on domestic viewers at 50% capacity, up to 10,000 people. Anyone wanting to support athletes has been told to do so by clapping rather than cheering or singing.
How ridiculous is that? How ridiculous is that? Thank you, Phil Lister, for pointing that out. finial spear. A finial is a spear with barbs on it. Very good. And John Hudson, thank you for keeping me on track. Please hit the like button, everyone. It looks like we're living in a nation of criminals, and that we didn't know about that. It's just seeing, yeah. I don't care for the Olympics, but you can't cancel football in Europe. It seems like there would be a lot of rioting, to tell you the truth. It seems like there might be some rioting if you're going to cancel. You would have to cancel the game, maybe, but just having less people in the stands, perhaps, especially during an outbreak. So Japan is going to declare an emergency right at the same time that the Olympics are being held. I don't know. The economy of countries hosting normally gets a boost because of tourism. They're screwed now. And the thing is, right, for those of you who know anything about the Olympics, when the International Association approaches, gives a city a bid, right, gives a city the pleasure of hosting the Olympics, they will give X amount of money. Like Boston a couple of years ago, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago now, Boston was given the opportunity to make a bid again, for the Olympics. I think it was for the Summer Olympics. And the city officials just said basically, F you. Okay, here's how it runs. Let's say the Olympic Committee will give you $1 billion, to get everything ready for the Olympics. Any amount of money that you spend over that $1 billion, you have to pay yourself. The city, the state, the country has to pay for it. And they're always over budget. I mean, they always undercut it. So so let's say it's $1 billion they offer you and it costs $2 billion. Well, guess what? You get to shell out $1 billion of your own money to pay for the so-called improvements or stadiums that never get used again. So Boston at the time said, okay, we will make a serious bid for the Olympics only if we don't have to pay anything over what you told us, what you're going to give us. So in other words, if the construction goes over what you tell us, we're not paying that extra. You will be. Well, of course, Boston's never held the Olympics because it's economically speaking, cities don't do exceptionally well with the Olympics. All right. Are we going to talk about Trump? Yeah. Every once in a while we have to talk about that guy, right? And it's good to keep an eye on him. Oh, man, nothing but trouble. Donald Trump sues Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter for alleged censorship. Yes, from the same people who are all about the free market and private enterprise and keeping big government out of business, Donald Trump is suing social media platforms. Now, you think that's a crazy story, but at the very end of this article, we're going to talk about something that the state of Florida did, which actually is crazier than what Donald Trump is doing. And not many people are going to be surprised at that microphone, right? All right, let's do the story. Former President Trump is suing Facebook, Twitter, and Google's YouTube over their suspensions of his accounts after a mob of his supporters attacked the U.S. Capitol. In January, Trump filed class action complaints in federal court in Florida, alleging the tech giants are censoring him and other conservatives, a long-running complaint on the right for which there's little evidence and that companies deny. In Tuesday's lawsuit, the former president accuses the companies of violating his First Amendment rights and behaving like state actors rather than private companies on putting restrictions on what people can post. To tell you the truth, I go into the 7-Eleven down the street or the Quickie Mart, and there are signs that say things like, we refuse service to anyone, the store owner gets to refuse service if they want to, or the staff get to refuse service. That just seems how things work. He asked the court to order the companies to reinstate him and other members of the proposed class of plaintiffs. He also wants the court to declare a federal law, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, unconstitutional. That 1996 law says online sites largely are not responsible for what their users post. While in office, in retaliation for Twitter's fact-checking his tweets, Trump signed an executive order attempting to strip social media companies of Section 230 protection. And President Biden has revoked the order, of course. Trump has the First Amendment exactly wrong. See, now, once again, if you spend 5 minutes in the atheist sphere, and people start, there's always this, it's like one of the many conversations: atheism, humanism, secularism 101, people complaining about their rights being infringed upon, their First Amendment rights, because, Facebook took down some of their content. Well, Facebook is a private is a private company. You can argue the merits of Facebook doing that, but is that a First Amendment issue? Trump has a First Amendment completely wrong, said Paul Barrett, an adjunct law professor and deputy director at New York University Center for Business and Human Rights. He described the lawsuits as DOA, or dead on arrival, because the First Amendment applies to government restrictions on speech, not the actions of private companies. Even conservative experts voiced skepticism about Trump's legal case. So yeah, if the government decided to nationalize Facebook, let's say, and turn it into because I'm thinking about arguments maybe some people in the chat are having right now about Facebook being intrinsically needed, or, people need Facebook on a day-to-day basis. So if the government was going to nationalize Facebook and make it something like, I don't know, a government department, then yes, then it would be an infringement on their First Amendment rights, possibly. Previous attempts to sue the platforms over content moderation decisions have been quickly tossed by courts. Last week, a federal judge blocked a new Florida law from taking effect. It would have fined large social media companies if they banned politicians. The court said the law likely violated the First Amendment. So Florida would have fined social media companies for banning politicians. That's Florida for you, everyone. Go and check out the comments. Hey, Simply Secular Dave. I hope you noticed that I did make reference to the frog. Simply Secular Dave. Let's see. Thumbs up, Andy. Well, I can get behind that, my friend. Right. So, if FB is one, see, now here's the thing, right? So conservatives don't want the government to nationalize Facebook, for example, right? But they still want the government to control what Facebook does. Only when it suits them, of course. The show is really funny at 1.25. Well, I imagine it. Yeah, I could see that. Sure. Cryptameria goes, I hate Facebook. Well, yeah. Trump is definitely, I'm just looking through Rico. I'm sorry if I pronounce your. I'm going to say Rico Montrell Brown. Yeah, Trump has been just a thorn in the side. Not even. I cannot even talk about how evil Trump is. I've compared him to Mussolini, to Idi Amin. He's a dangerous clown. That's what he is. What's up? Hope you're doing well. Hope you did well. All right. Just checking out things. Okay. I think we covered everything today, everyone. I'm doing well on the time. We covered the Catholic crisis in Canada, about how the Catholic Church isn't paying what it was supposed to pay to the survivors of the residential school. Cultural genocide, I believe is what it was called, cultural genocide that the Catholic Church participated in. They were supposed to pay $25 million, I think the number was, and they paid less than $4 million while still paying hundreds of millions to renovate their churches. That was the first story we covered. High fish. Fish. There was research talking about how methamphetamines pumped into our waterways can get fish high and can affect their behavior. Rudy Giuliani, no longer able to practice law in Washington, D.C. The QAnon shaman, he's stuck in jail. He's not getting out before his trial, everyone. And Donald J. Trump trying to sue people trying to sue major social media platforms because they restricted or just not deleted. Did they delete his accounts? They got rid of his accounts. We'll say that, right? And we talked about Japan and the Michigas, the craziness of the Olympics going on over there. Maybe it's a good idea to declare a health emergency in the middle of, well, maybe it's a good idea to have the Olympics during a health emergency. I don't know. It sounds insane. We had a bunch of laughs too. Did a bunch of memes, did a bunch of jokes. I think I had fun, everyone. So I'm going to finish the show with the first video I showed. In case you didn't see this little bit of stand-up, I'm going to show it again. Usually I have 3 different videos. This time I just happened to upload the same video twice. Double bad minus. I don't know. Let's do this. This is a funny bit from Taylor Tomlinson, everyone. Let's check.
Became a Christian as an adult? Interesting. Guy in the dark's just like, high level of difficulty. Finding faith as a grown-up. How long have you been a Christian? A year? Oh, you're like brand new. It's your anniversary. You don't remember? You don't remember like the day? Usually adult Christians remember the day because they like had a meltdown. No? What? You like the music? Nobody has ever become a Christian because of the music, just so you know. That has never, ever happened. Nobody's ever been like, why did you decide to dedicate your life to Jesus Christ? And they were like, have you heard Stephen Curtis Chapman? Because that guy rocks.
All right, that was Taylor Tomlinson. She's doing some dates, going around. She's in Chicago. Looks like we're going to get some tickets to see her here in Boston. I'm going to go see my, as many of you, I'm going to save this for the after party after show. The after party after show, it's an open room. If you want to come on and just talk with us, or whoever's on the panel, whoever shows up today, starting at 10 o'clock, we just talk about whatever you want to talk about, basically, So thanks for showing up, everyone. Thanks, chat. Appreciate you all always being here. Once again, this is completely funded by you. I don't run ads. That's not what we're about here in Laughing in Disbelief. So thanks to YouTube members and patrons. I'm going to do the thank you video, and then I'm going to see some of you at 10 a.m. for the after party after show, everyone. So let's drop this video. Wow, I'm still here. Take care, everyone. Bye.